Hi, team leads. I just wanted to check in really quick and share with you a quick protocol that you could use with your teams to have some formative assessment conversations. We set a challenge at our last team meeting that between October and January that we would try a protocol related to formative assessment. Just wanted to remind you of that, but also give you an idea of something you could do. Some of our teams are not quite yet to the point where they're ready or feel safe enough to have in-depth conversations and really analyze student data, but a formative assessment is a really good place to start with something that can be quick and easy and doesn't have to be highly invasive into what a teacher is doing. So this protocol would work really well for that. In this protocol, you're going to identify the standards that you're assessing with what you're doing. And so I have two standards from the AP Biology core. I want them to know that mutation is what results in genetic variation, that genes don't just appear, that they come from random mutations. And then the particular phenotypic variations can either increase or decrease fitness of the organism in a particular environment. And then when we get done with this activity, I'm going to look for students who have not yet met those objectives. They meet the objectives or they're exceeding the objectives. Okay, here is a way that you can put together a formative assessment really quick. So this is an activity that I printed off from HHMI. There was a video that went along with it, and students were introduced to some concepts about sickle cell disease in this video. And so I had them go through and answer the questions as they were watching the video. And then I just chose one question that I thought would show me whether or not they were grasping the concepts that we were trying to instill. And so I looked at question number 9. Is the following statement true or false? Malaria caused the sickle cell allele to appear. And justify your answer in 1 or 2 sentences. And because this is mostly a student production sentence where they're having to pull in the right evidence, I thought this was a good place to do a quick check of whether or not they were getting it. So what I had students do was they finished the activity, and then I collected the papers some of the students submitted online, and then I just went through and sorted them. So I read only their answers to number 9 and put them into categories of whether they were not yet or meeting or exceeding the category. So here's a couple examples of students that are meeting the standards. This was early in our unit, so I wasn't expecting a lot of detail in the related to mechanisms, but I was expecting them to be able to say that mutation was the source of variation and that natural selection would work on that variation based on environmental conditions. And so these are two examples of student responses that I thought met the criteria. I actually didn't have any that I really felt exceeded the criteria because I want a lot more information and supporting detail than what the students had put in their responses. So that's okay. This is early in the unit. It's going to give me some ideas of where we need to go next, because what I am not seeing in any of the statements that met the requirements is that the students are identifying that reproduction is an important mechanism between the mutation providing variation and that variant becoming more prevalent in the population. So here are a couple examples of the not yets. This student actually gave the right answer, but then their supporting information, their justifying is not really great. And so this also is a way that I can assess writing and the skills of expressing and communicating ideas. So number 9, is the following statement true or false? Again, this person said the sentence is true because the sickle cell allele is used to protect people from the malarial disease and became prevalent in places that were having malaria outbreaks. So just from that answer, I can see that we've got some misconceptions that are going on there. So I'm looking at my quick sort protocol back to there, and I just put down the few issues that I saw frequently or the most commonly in the students that didn't have it yet, and what I saw in the students that met and where I think we need to go next. Some things that I can see that we need to work on next is that students need to be able to discuss the reproductive step in there. That evolutionary fitness is measured by reproductive success. So it's not enough to just survive, but we also have to reproduce and be able to pass on those traits more frequently in order for there to be a change in the population frequency. and then changes in allele frequency compared to the original population. The other thing I didn't see students doing is they were just kind of talking about a general population and not saying this was what the starting population looked like and this is what happened over time. And so I want to make sure that I'm really emphasizing that there's a time component in here and that we're talking about two different populations that we're comparing to be able to identify that evolution has taken place. Times when I did this, wouldn't even look at both of my classes or all of my classes that I taught, but I just do a sample class because inevitably the same issues that one class was having were the same things that were showing up in every other class period. If I have a team, I can talk to my colleagues and ask, how are you helping students understand variations and traits? Maybe they have a better activity or a better way analogy for explaining. I can provide a learning experience that focuses on reproductive success. I know that has to be in my lesson plan because the students are not addressing that. I can also have the students rewrite their answers as a group and give them some more specific criteria. This could be a quick starter the next day, like, hey, we're going to revisit question number 9 from your assignment last night, and I want you to be able to make sure that you talk about mutations, variation, and reproduction. Now go as a group and give me 2 sentences in the next 2 minutes. And then we can talk about it. And just that conversation alone about one question gives students a lot of feedback. And then number 5, another example would be to provide students with an analogous phenomena and see if they can identify all the important steps and mechanisms for how natural selection occurs. Because what I'm seeing in their explanations right now is they can say this is what happens, but they're not really giving me the connective tissue of what the mechanism is for how we go from variation to a change in allele frequency. So that's just one example. And I hope that's something that you feel like could be helpful to your team. Again, if they're not really to the point where they want to have big group discussions about data, you could always have them just do this in their own classrooms with their stuff and then just come with the recommendations. Based on what you saw in your class, what do you think are things that we have to talk about next?